What you are witnessing on the screen can only be described as one man's single-minded obsession to find out exactly how the world around him works. Since mankind's first steps into this cruel, unforgiving world, we discovered the glory and the power of fire, which helped to illuminate our way into the future. Today, such struggles are no longer an issue, but still man is gripped by this insatiable desire to work out how every little thing around them works, in this wonderful home that we call a planet. I ventured on a journey to find out exactly how the Isle's AI truly works, and in doing so I came face to face with what can only be described as the genius of Amarok himself. The first question I asked myself when undertaking this project is why even bother? And the simple answer is that I've just wanted to help people out in this game. Finding AI as a carnivore can be very, very difficult, and as such, many players feel like the game just isn't really playable, or very much struggle to really progress further than juvenile or subadult. But as time has gone on since the implementation of the new AI, people have started to get far better at surviving. The reason why we have less AI is because, as Amarok said, he cut down the amount of AI to help with server performance issues, and that he hoped to add in even more AI into the server once he's found a fix to keep the servers running optimally with a lot of AI. The history of AI in this game has been very, very interesting, and I decided to leave some videos up of just the early Dryo, Carno, and Tenno AI that we had throughout this game's history. The Carno AI is one that I particularly am very fond of, as I used to call it the Terminator Carno, as it didn't have a stamina pool, and it didn't track you based on line of sight, but instead a field around it, where if you were within that range, it would know where you were, and its animations were buggy as all hell. Of the AI that we're going to be talking about in this video, we're mainly looking at things like boars, goats, deer, etc. The last information that we actually got from this was actually from a friend of the channel, Haru, or Glitch Tenno. And this was all the way back in 6.5, where the AI decided to change from being always active to being active and asleep, meaning that once you went into range of the AI would now become active and start to move. This basically meant that when entering into an area, you weren't already greeted by AI. You had to actually travel around the area to actually get the AI to wake up and then start to move and spawn in. This also meant that the strain on the server was far less. We will be seeing as this video goes on of how the AI spawning has changed since this very, very simple design way back when. This ended up being the main reason why I wanted to undertake this project. It was to find out exactly what the AI was doing right now, in hopes that in the future, better people than me can continue where I've left off and really provide the community with intensive information to exactly where the AI spawns and how to spawn it in. And if AI ever becomes more complicated in the future, we already have this baseline that we can work on. As well as that, we can genuinely just help people out by showing them where the AI is right now, as well as the findings that I have found as to how to spawn them in and how to effectively find AI very, very efficiently. The other reason why I want to do this is simply for the fame and glory, such that in 10 years time, when the Isle is probably a completed game, someone can look back through the history of the Isle and there'll be a nice little 15-minute segment all about me and how great I was. But I'm gonna gaslight myself into thinking that I'm doing this just for you guys, and I would suggest that you will do the exact same. So now that we had the mission set, I then had to ask myself a very, very simple question, which is how does someone map the entirety of Gateway and plot every single AI? The first method that I came up with to plot the map with the AI was to simply use a Trinodon and fly around, which in theory would activate the AI up beneath me, and I could just simply go into admin mode and check out where all the AI was. Unfortunately, I learned quite a few things that didn't quite work. One was that while flying, in order to actually see the AI while in admin mode while flying, I'd have to fly very, very low to the ground, which would mean that I would rapidly run out of stamina as I'm constantly trying to survey the entire map. Second of all, I'll be flying so fast that I wouldn't actually be able to spawn in the AI as I'm going past them, which would cause me to constantly have to look behind me and made things go even slower. Lastly was the fact that I'll be spawning AI in just random places, where even though I was nowhere near the beach or West Rail, I'll be spawning AI all the way in the mountain by West Rail. This then led me to have to find a way to change my approach. Doing this the easy way wasn't going to cut it. I had to figure out a method that would allow me to accurately plot where the AI was in each area, while also allowing that AI the time to spawn. I couldn't just fly around the map and hope that the AI woke up, allowing me to plot them. I had to do something far more sinister and far more genius. It was sitting down in the same spots constantly and just recording where every single AI was. Cue the first montage. The method was working. I was finally getting one step closer to accurately plotting the AI around the map, and I started already learning quite a few interesting things. For example, there would be repeatable spawns. Depending on how many times I redid the test, there would be certain spawns that would repeat. Furthermore, there'd be certain spawns that would repeat but would have slight variations. Instead of spawning in a family of deer, it would instead spawn a family of boar. Furthermore, I was starting to learn the limits of where the AI was spawning. There was a range of about 15 to 20 meters on either side of the player where AI would not spawn, meaning in order to get accurate data of where the AI was spawning, I'd have to constantly keep changing the position from where I was sitting in order to cover pieces of the map. Furthermore, the places where I was sitting would actually change the AI that was spawning. If I was near cliffs, for example, it would begin to prioritize spawning AI around the cliffs, even if those cliffs were 100 to 200 meters away from me. If I was on a path, it would begin to start spawning AI around the path. If I was in the field, around the field. If I was close to water though, it would start to prioritize spawning AI within the water. This would become very, very useful for us to keep finding out how the AI was working. We were starting to have issues though. When I got to West Axis, there were areas of the map that just would not spawn AI, and when they did, we would only be spawning about 2 goats. Something needed to change yet again. We needed to find a method to constantly spawn in the AI, but know that we were constantly getting the same AI spawns in order to prove that the AI spawns were repeatable and weren't just random. If we could prove that the AI spawns were repeatable, we could then make a map of repeated AI spawns instead of just random AI spawns. And I knew just a place to start this off. Somewhere where the terrain is the exact same throughout the entire thing, but still has slight variations. We had to go to everyone's new favourite hotspots. We had to go to Highlands. After spending more than enough time in Highlands for me to actually go ahead and add filters to this game, I think I finally had a good grasp of where everything in Highlands was. After repeated tries, I ended up finding a very consistent method to spawn in a lot of AI in Highlands. Unfortunately not repeatable by you guys, but it involved putting my dinosaur on top of one of the rocky outcrops and simply just sitting down for a while. While sitting on the mountains, I was actually spawning in multiple AI from different zones, not just the ones that I was on. This basically meant that while sitting on the mountain, I was activating not only the zones in the field, but also the ones near the mountains and near the water. I could then go in, much like a fine-tip pen going through a large sweeping watercolor painting, fill out all of the minor places in between where I wasn't quite getting enough data that I was happy with. This altogether meant that I was able to picture a very nice view of Highlands and where all of the AI spawns were. I would even have cases where instead of spawning things like goats and deers, I would instead be spawning tacos, which is a very important thing to note later on, as it meant that if I was spawning tacos, I wouldn't be spawning other AI, meaning that the test would need to be repeated such that I got a good coverage of where the tacos spawn, as well as where the normal AI spawns. Yet again, we encountered the exact same thing with families of goats and families of deer, where both of them were interchangeable but would still spawn in roughly the same spots. This, however, was not the case for individual goats and deers, which seemed to have their own individual places where they would spawn. I then started to have a brief look at how the AI was moving around once they spawned in, and it seemed the AI would basically just move around their main sort of area, but they would often move towards big central pathways. I'd often find the deers heading towards the canyon pathway or into the rocky outcrop in the middle of Highlands J sector. Sometimes, however, the AI would get stuck and start to move towards the mountains or towards the rocky outcrops, which is why you sometimes find goats jamming themselves into rocks. This is because the AI is trying to move out of the area, but it just doesn't really detect the rock. This came all together to give them very good advice as to how to look for the AI, which is, if an area that you've explored previously and you come back to there, it's a good idea to actually check out the main pathways and then check the perimeter of the area instead of checking right in the middle, as the AI will often move out of that area and towards the outsides or onto a main pathway. With the success of Highlands, I then began to broaden my scope to start checking out the other areas. Using what I've now discovered and what I now understood, I then started to look into places like West Rail and then started to look into places like West Axis as well, in order to try to cover up the little places where I wasn't spawning AI, where I started to uncover some more things. In River Delta, the AI that I would spawn varied greatly. If I was simply on the paths by the grass close to the water, I would only ever really spawn AI in that immediate area. However, once I started to get deeper into Delta, into the middle islands, I started to spawn way more AI. And what surprised me the most is that when I was quite close to the big cliffy outcrops in the middle of River Delta, I would start to spawn AI all the way in Water Axis and even further towards East Plains. Son of a bit. Well, slap my salami and call me a commie, that's a lot of fucking AI. What the fuck caused that one? Amarok! Help. I'm scared. At first, I was unsure as to why, but I remembered the findings I found earlier on, where I noted that being near the cliff areas would start to activate other cliff areas but leave out the field area. It seemed to be that in River Delta, being near the middle, near the big plateaus, you would actually start to activate cliff zones, rocky outcrop zones, pathway zones, as well as the fields, all in one. This was proverbially a god spot for spawning AI. It meant that the entirety of River Delta, as far as the eye could see, you would start to spawn in huge swaths of AI. I can definitely see after this video reaches the hands of most people, that a lot of carnivores are now start to go down to River Delta. This also could just be a giant ruse, and I'm planning to play Deinosuchus eventually, and I just want easy kills. But I'll let that be decided by all of you guys. But it was definitely interesting to see just how many AI could spawn. And given the fact that I'd already proven in the Highlands test that a lot of the AI were repeatable, it basically now became a thing of finding out the best zones to go to for each area of the map in order to spawn as many AI as possible to get this process done quicker. Little did I know that this process would still take about a month and a half of my life. So, please like and subscribe, so I can feel encouraged to actually make more of these videos. Please. I beg. If you guys feel so inclined and you say so in the comments, I may even open up a Patreon so you guys can pay me money every single month to do testing, to which all of the money will go towards stuff to keep me sane while testing, such as alcohol and eventually drugs. So yay, consider that. Now that we basically found out most of what we could about how the AI could spawn, how we were going to get the AI to spawn, and our method of collecting enough data in each area to actually plot repeatable AI spawns, it then became the monumental task to finish clearing up the entirety of the map. This was going to be the home stretch. If we could get this done, we could finally start working on our elusive map. After a long, grueling session of about a month and a half, we finally managed to cover most of the map of Gateway, aside from a few little spots that we decided to finish off when it came closer to actually making the map. If you're wondering where a lot of the footage is, as a lot of the areas of the map aren't actually seen in that montage, if you manage to slow it down, for example, it's because there was so much footage I ran out of space on my hard drive. I have about 700 gigabytes free space on my hard drive at any given time. This entire project filled up the majority of it, so I had to start deleting things. I also had to make sure I didn't delete the things I wanted to mention at the very, very beginning, which became very, very confusing when all of the files didn't have a name and were just a date, and the date spanned for a very, very long time. But we finally managed to map everything that we could, and all that was left now was to build the map. The map that I've been waiting for so long to build, so that I could finally draw some really, really interesting conclusions and put all of the knowledge that I'd gained about AI spawning all into one place. Everything that I'd learned about AI, from the fact that there are zones on the map that will activate certain AI to spawn, the fact that there's a range around the player where AI won't spawn, the fact that AI likes to congregate around paths or towards rocky outcrops, the fact that depending on where you are and where you're walking, you will actually spawn in different amounts of AI, and certain AI can only really be spawned if you're in specific places traveling through the map. All of this put together, I could finally make the map, and I was so excited to do so, which means that you guys are gonna have to sit through another montage. I'm just the messenger. What you are seeing in front of you is a collective effort of me, myself, and I over the course of a month, put into a map form on a Google Drive document that you guys can download yourself and use in your own gameplay. Bear in mind that the document is actually so fucking large that it will pixelate whenever you try and scroll across it too quickly because it takes a while for it to load. If you guys actually want to see how much lag this puts onto my computer and loading it in PowerPoint, imagine that every single time you move your mouse, it takes 5 seconds for the rest of the image to load. Now we can start looking at what can we actually learn from this absolute monstrosity. Well, for one, we have very, very simple stuff. We have the fact that I forgot to put a deer into West Rail Access, but we're going to ignore that for now because I'd like to take just a quick moment to thank our sponsor for this video.
Have you ever wanted to have a cup of tea? Well, look no further than today's sponsor, Yorkshire Tea, brewed in our favourite part of England, Kenya. Here I have my nice, delicious cup of Yorkshire Tea. I'm about to take a sip for quality assurance. That is lovely.
Please make sure to thank our sponsor Yorkshire Tea for promoting this video, as well as use the promo code Amarok down in the description below to get yourself a 30% discount on your next batch of Yorkshire Tea. After 2.5 months of painstaking work, I finally have the map. This map was the collective effort of me, myself, and I, and it truly is, honestly, a beauty to behold. And we can already, after just moving our little camera around, we can already start to see some very, very important distinctions of how we would believe AI to spawn versus how they actually spawn. You would assume that the AI would be random, but as I already proved, that they're not random, and they actually have set locations that they like to spawn in. And most of these locations you seem to be all the way around trails. In fact, you can actually map with your finger on the screen a lot of where these trails are and how these trails fan out and then connect with other trails around the map. Effectively meaning that if you were to walk around every single trail on the map, you would in time begin to spawn every single AI. We also see that on the trails you get small AI first, like your rabbits and your chickens, which then lead you into much larger AI as you continue to go down the path. And we see this in both ends of South Plains. At the start here, you have a lot of chickens, and then rabbits, and right where the paths meet, you have a whole load of deer. And then on the complete other end of this trail, you once again reach back to chickens and rabbits, which then blend their way into goats. And then from the goats, you can keep going up the trail, and you go back into chickens and rabbits, which if you then keep going down, you end back up into goats, and then chickens and rabbits, and then goats, and then chickens and rabbits, and then goats, and so on and so forth. Effectively, everything split into 2 different sections. The trail with the smaller AI, and then the big reward at the end of the trail being the larger AI. And this was something that Dondi actually spoke about quite a while ago in one of his streams. Obviously, I don't have the clip, because what do you take me for? But he did mention this, and he mentioned the idea of it being able to be used to help players figure out where AI is. Instead of having to just memorize AI, all the player needs to do is just stick to the trails. And by sticking to the trails, we actually begin to uncover a lot of the genius in this game, and by extension, Amaroks' genius. The fact that the AI is set up such that it will go from chickens into larger animals, in my opinion, is genius. It gives you these small bits of AI that will keep you sustained, but the larger and larger carnivore you are, the less important those chickens are. Which means, in theory, you could actually use some of the AI spawning to tell where players have been. If you are going down the pathway from West Rail to Highlands, and you see a bunch of chickens and rabbits, you could actually make an educated assumption that a larger carnivore that doesn't get that much food from those chickens and rabbits have already passed through. And then when you get to Highlands, there might even be a suspicious lack of deer and goats, which might then put you onto high alert. Furthermore, we have the fact that because the AI likes to stick around paths, it means that the pathways are a really, really good place for player-to-player interaction. If you can incentivize players to take the pathways around the map, it makes it easier for certain ambush predators to get the leg up and actually ambush you, which we can imagine when we get to Rex and Aloe. While it may sound cheap, in the same way that drinking takes a lot of time so dinos can grab you, it is necessary for those playables to function. Effectively, everything in the game is a setup for something else. Herbivores having a migration zone or patrol zone in South Plains puts a lot of herbivores there, which in turn brings along carnivores. The herbivores are effectively baits for the carnivores, but the carnivores are also baits for other carnivores. We can take this even further with the pathways, where by taking the pathways you have to be on high alert, which therefore means that taking a path away from the normal path will actually save you from the potential ambush. And once players know this, we begin to see a very interesting change in player psychology in the paths that they like to take to get from place to place. As Donaldy said before as well, he wanted to try and improve the pathway system in order to avoid players just taking the most direct route from one migration zone to another migration zone and end up travelling across mountains instead of just taking the paths that are already there. One way of doing this for carnivores would be to actually just have the path have small bits of AI that will keep them satiated as they travel from place to place. We can actually see that the genius of Amaroks shows itself in other ways. The AI, unlike 6.5, as was mentioned earlier on in this video, isn't based on being asleep and awake, because back then you could spawn into an empty server that you own, have all of the AI spawn all at once, and then fly up to the top of the map and watch the AI. You cannot do that now. Instead, the AI need to be spawned in by you activating the AI zone. You could almost imagine the AIs like a very complicated patrol zone, or even migration zone. We also see that the AI is actually able to spawn in based on your current location, which of course sounds obvious, especially with the 20-meter radius around the player, but it goes further than that. If you are by these rocky outcrops, you will primarily spawn AI in other rocky outcrops rather than in the field. While of course the system still has some kinks that need to be ironed out, you can clearly see the idea that is there. The idea being that if you are in rocky areas, you will spawn AI in rocky areas, which will mean that you can keep going down the route that you are traveling. The AI system that we currently have is less a system about staying in one place and spawning in AI, but is instead tailored towards the traveling player. Of course, this is not to say that you cannot just sit in a single place and just keep spawning AI. Of course you can. But the AI spawning itself seems to be determined by the traveling player. This then leads to two different ways that you can find AI. One is the stationary approach, which we can just call hermiting, where you bunker down in an area and try to spawn in a lot of AI. This will be very successful in a place like Delta, where you could stay by these rocks over here and then spawn in the entirety of Delta. As we see with these rocks that there are pathways that go all the way through this rock like this. We can also see that a lot of these little rocky outcrops are in the range of this rocky outcrop, meaning that you would be constantly spawning AI in all these different areas, and then you can go out of your way to travel down the paths to find these AIs, after waiting a while to find them. But this method has its disadvantages, which of course would be if you were to wait about 15 to 20 minutes to spawn in all of the AI, and you went searching for them and didn't find any, you'd put yourself in a very big disadvantage. The other method is of course the nomad approach, rather than the hermit approach, where you continuously travel around the map in order to find the more and more AI, using the sections of chickens and rabbits to lead yourself into bigger groups of AI that will be able to satiate you. Looking at all of this information together, we can paint a very clear picture as to what the devs are aiming for. As Donaldy has said in the past, he has always wanted to play a game where he could spawn in on a map, go into admin mode, and actually watch AI dinosaurs move around the map. But could this current AI iteration we have right now lead our way into this? And I believe that it can. As I showed you earlier on in the video, there were cases where, between two different AI tests, where I waited for longer after spawning them, we actually saw a deer move from here up to here, and even some of the chickens continued to move up the map as well. What this means is that the AI was actually taking the same paths that the player was. Sometimes the AI also moves away from paths towards rocks. But given the fact that the AI also spawns in certain zones, and those zones are based on the player, if we were to add in AI dinosaurs with these exact same features, we could do something very interesting, and I believe this could actually be what the devs do in the future. If we were, for example, to have AI Tennos and place them into Delta, we could make it such that the AI zones that the Tennos are able to see would be other areas similar to Delta, which would of course be the rest of Delta, but also areas like Swamp. And even beyond that, they may even be able to see places like East Pond, meaning that the AI Tennos would conveniently move up and down Delta or may even decide to travel into swamps or East Pond, meaning that the AI Tennos would seem to be as if they were migrating from place to place. You could even add a function where the AI is able to tell how much food is in an area. Given the fact that Dondi said in his previous director's commentary about patrol zones and migration zones, they are not the finalized versions that we are going to get. They are instead test versions, which makes perfect sense for a game like this, where it's constantly being developed and updated, in which the zones are simply there in order to show players and show to the game that they are able to spawn in and change the zone and have those zones spawn in food. Meaning that in the future we may get a far more in-depth version of these systems when it comes to them being fully explored and realized. In these future versions, we even see the AI dinosaurs be able to interact with them in certain ways, where they are also called during mass migrations. This would cause the server to be far more alive. Instead of seeing deers, rabbits and chickens, you may see other dinosaurs. You may see mimmies or hipsies, or even dryos. You may even see, instead of boars and deer and goats, you may even see juvie tennos or dibbles. You may even see some juvie carnivores and sub-carnivores that are traveling around the map. All in all, combat is a very, very difficult thing to grasp, especially when it comes to coding AI to have good combat. Of course, the Isle isn't something like From Software that can basically code a beautiful, elegant fight between two people and the other person is just an AI. We're not going to be expecting this either. I don't really want to see a Tenno lose all of its health and then go into its second stage and call out the Flower of Rot. I believe that would lead to quite a few traumatic experiences, even though it would be funny. And while we have gotten somewhere close in the past with Terminator Carnos, as much as I adore them, I'd quite like it to be a while before we see something like that again. However, I truly do believe that the future of this game's AI has a very, very bright future. I truly do believe that they can actually live up to this potential, as the groundwork has already been laid. In exploring this AI, I went from a position early on in this game, where whenever the AI would break, it would of course be the simple meme of Amarok AI, where it just doesn't work. After going through this, I've gained a deep found appreciation for how the AI works. I've even gained a deep found appreciation for all of the different areas of the map, and how much I actually quite enjoy the way that Gateway looks. While I hope that future things are changed, for example a proposed idea of a savanna over in this area, or even some more mudflatty areas, would be really, really cool. I do quite like this map, and I found just travelling around the map and spawning in the AI has been quite a rewarding experience for myself. To better my understanding of the game, and to better my appreciation for the things around me, I do believe that Amarok has done a really, really good job with the AI. And I believe that the AI is far more sophisticated than we give it credit for. What I believe is the issue is that the sophistication of the AI finds its limitations in the fact that it's unable to realise what it is properly. In theory, yes, having AI that spawn in rocky outcrops when you're near rocky outcrops makes perfect sense, but not when they're spawning on the complete opposite side of this field to you, which leads the player to a situation where they don't quite understand why the AI doesn't seem to spawn near them. It is because of all of these factors. But I truly do believe that in the future, when all of these things are ironed out, we can actually see a really, really rewarding AI system, which of course will become better when we actually get more AI on the map. I do think that the current AI system we have is to reward the player who travels around the map. But of course the issue with travelling around the map is of course the inherent fear of the gambler's fallacy. The whole idea of, because you spent so much time in this area, if you move to the next area, that's when the AI is going to spawn in. Whereas really the approach is to keep moving around the map and to keep being active. You do not want to have a situation where you've been staying in South Plains and you've killed the AI in South Plains, but that AI is just not spawned back in. Whereas instead continuously moving around the map will cause more AI to spawn in as you activate more zones. As much as this game has a future, what is the future of what I'm going to do when it comes to this map? Well, I'm going to give it a break for now, but in time I will come back to try and solve out some of the little issues around the map. And when we get Juvie AI, I will be sure to add the Juvie AI to the map and update the Google Drive document to update the map there. Maybe if I manage to get a team of people who can truly crack down and help with this AI, or even if the Volnona team seems to want to give a hand to actually help out with the AI as well once they find out about this, I'll be deeply appreciative. I truly do believe that we can make a map that many, many players can continue to use, and hopefully that this map can actually be used going on to the future of this game. and new players can be given a copy of this map from other people in the community, and we can have a thriving community of people who themselves update their own maps with little icons to tell them where different AI are, which will mean that people will have their own personalised experience with this game through something as simple as a map. I truly believe that the Isle has a really great future ahead of it, and I for one am excited. Less so about the new releases of dinosaurs, but instead the new features that are added into the game that add depth into our current gameplay experience. That's about all I can really yap about this subject for now, so I'm going to close it off with just the last closing remark. In the past month that I've been working on this project, I did not really think I'll be able to get it finished. I truly thought that I'd eventually reach a roadblock, and that it would all be for nothing. Even now I have a fear that after posting this video it won't really spread that far and not many people will find it interesting, meaning that I might not even get that many views on the videos, or maybe not even that many subscribers, meaning that the total amount of reward I got for the effort isn't really there. But at the same time, I truly do believe for those few people who do watch this video and actually enjoy this content, I am proud to basically reveal this map to you guys and hand it over to your hands as well. And I hope that you are all proud of me. And remember that I am just as proud of all of you guys. So keep your chin up on whatever projects or tasks there is at hand that you are currently working on. You can do it. Right now should be about exam season for quite a few people, and I hope that your exams go well, and I'll be rooting for you from the sidelines. Now fuck off. That was tough. Honestly, all that talking, like, man.
You've been talking for a while.
I have. It's been so hard not to slip up.
I can imagine.
You know, like...
Keeping all your facts straight.
I know, it's... Reading off this sheet of things to say has been exhausting. I mean, even, like, splicing together all of the footage to make it look like I did all these tests as well has been exhausting. Like, these people honestly believe that I spent, like, a month and a half to 2 months working on this project for their story asses?
It's ridiculous.
That's ridiculous. I mean, these people actually believe that there's some sort of genius behind the devs' design. Everyone knows that the R devs are incompetent. They're just throwing spaghetti against the wall. I mean, like, come on, guys. It's Amarok. It's Amarok AI. I mean, wait till these guys find out I just made up this entire video.
They're not that competent.
Exactly, no. I mean, by viewers being that intelligent to tell that I made this up, I mean, come on.
They're fools.
Of course they're not. They're fucking idiots. Fucking hell. Man. Honestly.
Imagine being that stupid.
Imagine being that stupid. I mean, honestly, like, if half the things that I said behind the scenes were revealed, it would be the death of me. I fucking hate these people, man. Like, oh, I can't find AI. Where the fuck is the AI? You fucking idiots.
AI doesn't even exist.
AI doesn't even exist. It's just chickens. Everywhere you go, it's just chickens. You know?
If in doubt, it's chickens.
If in doubt, it's always chickens. Just ridiculous. Oh shit! Wait, I'm still recording.